enough. Consistency is the key. Look at that. What do you rate it?
That's pretty dang good for it.
Out of 10. What's your assessment?
Well, no rookie scores, so I'm gonna go 9.2.
Yes. I'll get this out of the picture for copyright infringements.
Yeah, remember how long? Guess I always been this way, running 90 miles a minute all night and day, doing things that'd kill a lesser man or get him locked up tight. Never meant to hurt nobody, no I ain't like that, just trying to make my way any way I can. There's a lot of folks out there wanna slow me down, make me act right.
I'm Nick Taylor, aka Nicky Bobby. I'm from Indianapolis, Indiana, or originally from Indianapolis, Indiana. Now I live in Fort Wayne, Indiana. I got started in cars. I guess you could say it all started with a 70 Chevelle. My dad used to bracket race. I know, it's horrible, but that's what got me into racing. He had that car when he had it, I think, a couple years before I was born, and he raced it up until I was probably 3 or 4. I think him and my mom split up, the car got sold. And then, yeah, he had a 3rd gen Camaro after that. And that's really when I got into cars. Obviously, I was probably older. I was 3rd or 4th grade, and that's when he got his first nitrous kit for it. So that kind of just like set it off. That was the whole Fast and the Furious era. My dad had a Camaro with nitrous, and I was just like, I was in love with it, and that's what got me into cars. My first car was actually a 3rd gen Camaro. My dad had got as a parts car because the 3rd gen he had a nitrous explosion. Imagine that, burnt to the ground. So we got a parts car. He rummaged what he needed off of it and gave it to me. Then he basically told me, you could try to build this car. I think I was 12 or 13 at the time. He said, you can try to build this car, save up your money, or you can sell it and try to get something else. So I ended up selling that car, and then I bought the Malibu, which turned into the Malibu. So I bought it when I was 14, and it all started there. The beginning of the Malibu was a bracket car. To be honest, I don't like admitting it, but I used to think I was going to be the world's best bracket racer. I was completely enveloped in the racing community, but that's all racing was. This was 08. Yeah, this was 08, 09, so Super Chevy was still around. Obama was president. Gas prices were $4 a gallon. Like, the economy was horrible, so nobody was racing. I remember going to Super Chevy, and there was like 100 people there. It was the craziest time I remember in my life. For racing, at least, it was the worst time for racing, but that's when I started building the Malibus, and then I got my license when I was 16. The Malibus actually wasn't the first car I raced. My dad let me take a Chevelle. He had a 67 Chevelle at the time when I had the Malibu, or when I first got it. He let me take a pass in it down Brown County Dragway when I was 15. I had my learner's permit. That's how old I am. You could get your learner's permit when you were 15 when I started driving. But so from there, I saved up all my money. My dad, we wheeled and dealed. We did swap meets, all that. Built a 350. He gave me a Power Glide, a 12 bolt. We got some bow tie heads for my buddy Bill Nowak, and like a big solid lift cam, and it was the coolest thing I could possibly have. I was always into turbos and EFI, but that was like, we weren't poor, I wouldn't say, but we didn't have money. So like that stuff to me was completely far away from grass. Like I would never have that stuff until I was probably 30 and had a really good job or something. So I was okay with just bracket racing. I was actually really good. I think I won one of my second races. I went out in the car when I was in high school. And then I was kind of big into sports when I was in high school, so racing kind of took a back seat. Played sports, partied hard, and then when I got out of high school, I got my job. But once I got arrested when I was 21 for public intox and fighting a cop, that's when my racing career took off, because I was like, all right, I'm done with partying, I'm done with all the stupid stuff. I want to do race car stuff now, and that's when I sold the dirt bike I had. I bought the turbo, the LS, everything for my car. That's when I met Adam, and it's just been, non-stop racing ever since then. So street racing dates back before I ever actually started racing. I remember showing my dad, we had the PC computer, like we actually had a computer desk at home, like this big PC computer. And we finally got, I think, DSL internet, so I could actually watch videos, because the internet was finally fast enough to watch videos. And I showed him 1320video.com. You actually had to go to their website back then. And that's literally when the first cash days were coming out. So it was probably between the 05 to 09 time frame. And he thought it was the craziest thing ever, which I did too, because obviously nobody had ever seen anything like that. And I used to watch video after video of Street Fighter on streetfire.net. And I was actually I had my own account on Midwest Streetcar forums. Like back before they got the show, I would watch, like, keep up with the list on there and watch all the videos. So I've always, like, secretly loved street racing. But my dad always told me, like, when I was in high school, my Malibu ran, I raced it. But he said, you're not allowed to put it on the street, you're not allowed to insure it unless you get your own job, which I was in sports, so I couldn't get a job. He's like, you want to be able to afford it anyways. Because he knew if I had a street car, I was going to street race it. So he did a good job of keeping me from doing stupid things at that age, which turned out good because it just made me more hungry for him in the long run. But so yeah, so I didn't really get in. I've always loved street racing, but I didn't really heavily street race. So I would say last year I did some roll racing and stuff when I first got the turbo kit and all that stuff on the Malibus. But I never really heavily street raced it, because that's also when street car racing came into effect really in our tri-state area. Like, because NMCA was the only street car racing there was. So there's no street racing really, or there was no street car stuff happening. But once it did, I was totally into that because we were competitive then. But now it's just so crazy. Now every event is a street car event, and you got to go 450s to be competitive. So I'll never be that competitive at the track. So that's why street racing is what I do now, because it's what I've always wanted to do. I'm in the position to do it now because I own my own business. I can do whatever I want, whenever I want. Back then I had an HVAC job where I had to have a license. If I lost my license, I lost my job. So street racing was a big no-no then. It was a no. So now I'm really making up for that. Street racing every chance I get, because it's just like, it's fun to me. I don't have to show up a day early, tech in, go through registration, wait for my class to be called, worry if the track's gonna be good, this and that. You get a group of people, show up to a spot, you guys race, win money, go home, get some beers, get food. Usually the next morning you're driving home because you took all night. But yeah, that's why I street race now. My first street race in a Malibu. So some people don't know, there's been two Malibus. There was the first one I got when I was 15 or 14. And I raced that up until 2016, which I bent the frame on both sides. Like I notched it myself for bigger wheels, and I didn't do it right. And that's where the dent in the quarter panel came from, and the Band-Aids and stuff. And I raced it a whole year with a bent frame, not knowing it was bent. But it actually took the lower control arm brackets and shoved it all the way up into the floorboards. But I street raced that a couple times. But then I built a new car, and the first street race with the new car was this year at Waverly. I think you guys were there, and that was awesome. We just came back from Mississippi. I'd finally got the Malibu to where I really wanted it. I had the LS back in it. I had a bunch of weight in the back. I had the radiator mounted the way I wanted it. I had the suspension where I wanted it, and I had really good ADB tune-ups. Well, I got lucky at Waverly the first round when Patrick jumped, because I did not have nearly enough power. I haven't street raced that much before, so I wasn't as good at reading roads. But I ended up getting lucky. Patrick jumped, so I just kept turning the car up, and we won. And then that kind of kicked off the rest of the season. We did really good wherever we went, but had a rough, tough last half this season because blowing up motors everywhere I went. But this just happens. So the progression from Malibu to Mountain Dew was, we built Mountain Dew for a customer, a good friend, our buddy Lonnie, and then we got so involved with the car, and COVID hit, so Lonnie was doing stuff with his family, and we weren't really interacting a whole lot. But we talk every day, but we didn't see each other a whole lot because of COVID. Everybody was trying to stay on lockdown. But so he hadn't got the car yet, and that's when I broke the rear end in the Malibu, and I was like, and my dad had been racing Mountain Dew at the time because Lonnie wasn't racing it, and we were trying to get the car figured out for Lonnie. Well, when I broke the Malibu, so I was like, dude, Mountain Dew's still in my trailer. There's a street race in Kentucky this weekend. And I called Lonnie, I'm like, listen, I want to I'm gonna take this car. And he's like, okay, cool, you know, have at it. Just, I only ask that you do this maintenance on it. I'm like, all right, cool. So I took it, and that was the first time we raced it was in Kentucky, and we did really good. I think we got runner-up, or it was too close to call or something, but they ended up giving the win to Corey. But we still made a lot of money that night, which was cool. So I was like, dude, this car's really easy to go fast. So I started racing that while I was fixing Maliboost, and then I ended up back halfing Mountain Dew, and you know, we put a lot of time and work into it. So we ended up becoming a partner in the car. Basically, we're half and half. We do all of our time and all that stuff to make it right, and we get to race it. And Lonnie helps us on a lot of other things we can't do. So once I got the Maliboost background, my dad started driving Mountain Dew. But once I took Maliboost on Rocky Mountain Race Week and really basically chicaned the whole car front to back from the radiator that was back here ended up here to the bearings and the crank to the transmission and then melted tranny lines, and that car was wore out. So when I got back from Rocky Mountain was like, all right, now I'm just gonna race Mountain Dew full time. So that's what I did. We started doing really good with it. We had some issues at the end of the year that we finally figured out this year, but that's how that came to be. And then the Maliboost was sitting over in storage because I'd pulled everything out and was freshening everything up and fixing a lot of things. And I kind of looked at it and I was like, man, this car was, I think last year it was as competitive as I think it's ever been. But for me to make it as competitive as I think it needs to be for me to be on top next year, I did the math versus how much it would take versus just racing Mountain Dew. And I knew if it just sat over there, I was gonna end up putting a bunch of money into it in the long run and spending time on it that I don't need to spend now that we have the S10 and we have Mountain Dew and our business is doing good. So I decided to sell it, which was a good idea because our buddy Michael was really looking into getting into no prep competitively. I'm like, this is the perfect chassis. So he bought the car from me, and he's actually putting almost the same exact setup back in it. I sold him the turbo setup, you know, mid plate, motor plate, all the mounts, everything before you literally slap a motor in it pretty much. So that was my outlook on it. For me to be where I want to be in racing, what's it going to take? And it was going to take being in a car that was more competitive, which is Mountain Dew. Already almost a whole beer in. Have to make another pour. We should do one beer per question.
The last question is gonna be like,
How long have we been here? You can really see the pour this time since the mug's not frosted. I should be a bartender.
you know the other way you could do that, right? Put it up against the
Stick it
other
in
side.
there?
No, you put it up against the other side.
Oh yeah, I saw somebody do that. You flip this over and do it.
Yeah, I'll sit right
That
there.
or
I'll
something.
do almost the same thing.
I like it when I'm more involved. Just stack these here so you guys know how deep I am. I want you to know what kind of man I am.
They're both lights, chill out.
Bush lattes. So my plan for Mountain Dew this year is I want to be competitive wherever I go, which, excuse me. The car is already very easily competitive because of the chassis and the weight of it. But I think to be very competitive, there's a lot more that goes into it. And I'm actually transitioning from those two areas right now because last year I was kind of mediocrely competitive. I think I got lucky a lot. This year I want to be more data driven this year and I have a lot more goals set in mind. Last year is just like all fun, which I have fun wherever I go, but we had no expectations last year. I'm not setting my sights really high this year because, you know, I don't want to take the fun out of it for me. But like I have a lot of goals and I want to do a lot of things this year, and I know the main thing for me is I know if I do good this year, it can really catapult things for the next year and the next year after that. And not only doing good in racing this year will help me money wise, but it'll also help the business because this is what we do for a living. So that's why I'm very driven to do better this year than I did last year. Because last year, you could say I was a little careless, which careless actually is good a lot in street racing, but I want to be more precise this year. But like I said, I don't want to take the fun out of it. So we switched the car to methanol because last year we were on E85, non-intercooled. The car could only make so much horsepower. It was, tapped out, hurting stuff, lifting heads, all that. So we converted to methanol, went with a filled block, and then changed the coolant system around, moved weight around, went with a different fuel pump. We actually re-back half the car last year with a 10 Soldiers 4-link. So let me go slap my dog real quick. Hey, quit barking. No. Shit hurt. Oh, come here. Oh, this is Frosty, a shop cat / parakeet. So what I was saying was, I want to be more precise and more data driven. We changed the car around, changed the 4-link, changed weight bias, all kinds of stuff like that. So we're really doing everything that it needs to be done to the car, and I think that car can be like a Kendall Goen or a Ryan Mitchell, or one of the guys, when they go there, they're going to be a top contender, and that's what I want to be, because asphalt, backwards, no prep racing is turning into something like, this is horrible. I'm going to compare it to this. It's like bracket racing. It's something where you can have a lot lower budget setup, car, program, and you can go and win. I mean, this year you could win $500,000 at the races, or you could win, gosh, dude, if Shannon does his $250,000 race, you can win almost $1 million this year, backwards racing and street racing. So like that motivates me like no other, to where I could actually make a good living racing, and it's more of a independent racing. It's not, thank your sponsors, do this, wear this hat, do that. It's not like NHRA. It's just like the independent person has so much more control now over what you can do with racing and be more successful. So like, I'm very motivated by that. So that's my plan for this year. Win $1 million. No.
Are you sure? Because I'll have to check that out.
She knows the word no, dude. She's smart.
Sizing that thing up.
No. No. So, the beginnings of Mac, that started in 2018, and what a lot of people don't realize is I actually quit my job to start Mac so I could race more. Which, it's kind of bad when you say, basically I started my business so I could have more freedom, but usually when you start a business you have way less freedom. But, oh sorry, bird. It's not coming. Oh. All right, let's start that over.
I don't know, we're using it, just keep going.
Okay, so it was mainly Adam's idea to start Mac. Well, I told him what I want to do. I was like, dude, I want to quit my job and I want to start a fat business. And I already had the idea of Mac. I wanted a cool name that you could abbreviate, make cool merchandise out of, but also sound cool when you said it. And I don't even know where Mid-America Customs came from, but it sounded cool, and you could say Mac. Like, Mac is cool to say. So he's like, dude, move up here. He has a garage or a shop out back of his house, not a whole lot smaller than this, maybe just a little smaller without that side of it, but you can move up here, get an apartment, you can work out of my shop for free, and that's what I did. I cashed in what little IRA I had from working for a few years out of high school, and I moved up here with I had this old beat up truck, had like a 10-inch lift on, these big 35s, and packed all my race car stuff in it and hauled the Malibu up here halfway. It was when I was changing to a big block. So the Malibu was half done. I just packed everything I owned. I moved up here and I started Mac. I wasn't even that good at fab when I moved up here. I was just like practice. I would stay up to like 2 a.m. sitting out there in his shop behind his house, just practicing on every piece of scrap. I had a lot of help along the way. I have a lot of people, I mean, just like anybody else who does good, there are so many people that help them or, how do you say, affect what they do, because there's so many people just giving you the knowledge and the experience and telling you what they know. And I have a lot of that in my life, so I guess I don't really get to show that much. But back to Mac. I can't remember. Actually, the guy who is our partner in Mountain Dew was my first customer at Mac. He had a white Nova. He told me to come get it and swap it before I had ever even officially quit my job. And he's like, I want to be your first customer, help you out. Lonnie, he's like, whatever you need, just let me help you get started. So that was the first job I did. Of course, Adam helped me a lot. He was still doing engineering, but I could get parts through Adam. He let me work out of his shop, and I'm pretty sure their electricity bill in their shop doubled when I moved in there, and they never charged me a dime. Like, it was full commitment. They wanted me to be successful, and it was, I could never repay him for that, because that's kind of something like, the only way to repay him is by being successful. So I'm still working on it. But yeah, that started, and honestly, ever since then, like, we take on jobs I would take on jobs because I was like, I don't want to not have work. That was the biggest thing, is not having work. But as we progress, all we do is get more work. And then I think he ended up quitting his job because we just had so much work. It was paying good. We had great customers. And as soon as he quit his job, his neighbors turned us in to the board, the county. And they sent us a letter saying, you can't run a business out of your shop. It's zoned agricultural. Not allowed to run automotive business. Like, they were gonna fine us and do all this stuff. So it was like the worst time. But as soon as that happened, we went on Craigslist, found this place, and it was like the perfect setup. So, but it did suck because he had just quit his job, which is a very great paying job, to come work with me. He makes no money, but we just have a vision in mind and a goal, and we just set out to achieve it. So we're getting there. But so we moved in here October of 2019. So we've been here just over a year. I guess a year and 3 months. And it's just only, like, we started renting out this building, which is 4 buildings here in a house, and now we lease everything because, like, we're just growing and expanding and all that. Things are going really good. I can't, like, I'm just trying to, like, process how much we do to see what I should even talk about, man. So I'll just say, all right, fast forwarding to today, basically my job is fab work, Adam's parts guy, wiring guy. We just hired Moon and Zach. Zach's our video guy, part-time mechanic, stuff like that.
That's perfect.
Okay.
Right there. Right.
Oh, perfect. All right.
Otherwise it'll get weird.
Yeah, because then girls will think I'm looking at them. Yeah, and then next thing you know, you got stalkers on
Then
your
your
page.
hands come up. You like stalkers.
Yeah,
Oh,
she'll
cool.
fucking climb. Next thing, dude, she's a climber. She'll climb up and sit on your shoulder. She's like a fucking
That's good.
monkey
People like that
cat.
shit.
Yeah. Until she climbs on the car. But you don't want me to repeat the question, or you do want me to repeat the question?
Repeat it and answer. You know what I mean? So, I'm Nick Taylor from Butthole Land, Indiana. Wish I lived in Ohio, but I don't.
But that wasn't the question. You didn't, so I don't have to say the question, or you want me to say the question first?
Say it in your answer. Don't repeat the question.
Okay,
Don't
sorry.
say it as a
Yeah,
question.
just answer your question.
But answer my
Okay.
question with that information in it.
I got you. Yeah. Okay. I was
So-
confused on what you wanted.
So who you are,
Yep.
where you're from, and now you got me confused.
I'm not from
I got
Boston.
started in
You remember how long it's always been this way, running 90 miles a minute all night and day, doing things that'd kill a lesser man or get him locked up tight. Never meant to hurt nobody, no I ain't like that, just trying to make my way any way I can. There's a lot of folks out there wanna slow me down, make me act right.